Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to Seed to Plate channel, where today we're gonna do a short little video because I realized that in my garden planning video where I shared a lot of my tips and tricks on how to plant a small space garden, I never actually showed you guys what my plan is for my garden this year. And I am a planner with stuff like this. I actually do it on Excel. So I have printed out the garden plans to show you. Okay guys, so if this is your first time here, my name is Brooke. This is Seed to Plate channel where we talk all things urban and suburban gardening. And this garden plan I'm gonna show you guys today is based semi on square foot gardening. So if you don't know what square foot gardening is, that is where you actually plan out your garden per square foot of space. So each different type of plant needs a different amount of space. I like the square foot gardening planning method because it just helps me get my head wrapped around like what's gonna go where. Now, I've used this method in the past, and actually when I used this method a couple of years ago, I got like one of the most prolific gardening seasons like ever. So I'm super excited to kind of go back to this methodology and see how it works. Again, if you're new here, I have two gardens. I have a backyard garden in our rental house that I will have to deconstruct eventually. And I also have a 10-foot by 20-foot community garden plot. So in total, I have about 400 square feet of growing space. And I live in central Texas. And so it's really hot here. The majority of what we grow in the summer is tomatoes, peppers, melons, okra, all of that really like heat hardy stuff that you would associate with growing in the South. So without further ado, we're gonna start with my backyard garden. Now, the way that I make this garden plan is I actually go into Excel and I create even squares, and that is each square foot of my garden space. So that's how I actually lay out the whole entire bed before I actually start putting anything anywhere. And then for stuff like my tomatoes that need a little more room than just 1 square foot, I actually will merge the cells to make it that way. So I will show you. Bed number 1, actually, and this is kind of the theme for all of the beds, you're gonna see these really big blocks in the back, and those are where my tomatoes are gonna go, because out of everything I'm growing in the backyard, the tomatoes are gonna be the tallest. So I'm putting those in the back by the fence, and the fence will also kind of help support them too. And I am actually doing all of my heirloom tomatoes here in the backyard, and that's for a couple of reasons. Sometimes heirloom tomatoes need a little bit more babying, if you will, and they need just a little more like TLC and watching them. The other thing is my community garden plot is near downtown Austin. Produce theft has been a thing in the past, and so I'm much more okay with somebody stealing a regular old red tomato than one of my specialty varieties. So that's why I'm planting my heirlooms all in the backyard. So I do like to somewhat differentiate my tomatoes by whether they're a slicer or a cherry. So I kind of have all of my cherry type tomatoes in one section, and then I have some of my really fun slicers in another section, and then again more heirlooms in here, and then another kind of row of cherries and just different favorites that I have. So that kind of covers the tomatoes, and tomatoes need at least 18 inches of space away from each other. This year I'm actually gonna try and do 2 feet because I have more room. And so I'm gonna do 2 feet between each tomato, and I actually don't think I'm gonna prune. This might be a mistake. I've always pruned my tomatoes and I've always had really good success, but I read a book recently that kind of countered that argument. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I might change my tune here before long, but the plan is for the tomatoes to be 2 feet apart and for them to not be pruned. And so the more room that they have, really the biggest reason you prune a tomato is for humidity purposes. So when your plants are too close together, the biggest reason to prune is to make sure they get enough airflow so they don't succumb to any kind of like bacteria or mildew that would be exasperated by the humidity. If they're far enough away from each other, then the humidity issue shouldn't be a problem because they should have plenty of space to move and groove. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. I might be changing my tune before too long, and I'll probably make a video about tomato pruning. once the time gets closer. But that's the reason for them being a little farther apart this year. Traditionally, I've done them 18 inches apart to kind of get more tomatoes in one space. But I'm really interested to see how like a lack of pruning will affect the output of the tomatoes. Moving on in the backyard garden plan reveal, in front of my tomatoes, we're going to have some eggplants, some tomatillos. Now the tomatillos are all gonna be in one row all together. So the tomatillos are all clumped together, and tomatillos need to be planted together. They need friends so that they can pollinate each other. So we have eggplants, tomatillos, we've got some ground cherries that are gonna be in front of the tomatoes, and then it's mostly gonna be peppers. And so since peppers are shorter, that's why they're gonna be in front of the tomatoes. Now I know there's some issues with companion planting. I've literally never had a problem putting tomatoes and peppers next to each other, but you test it out and do whatever you think is best. We have more peppers in front of our tomatoes here, and then same thing here, except we have some peppers, and then actually right in the middle of the garden, this space, I know it's hard to conceptualize, is like right smack dab in the middle. And I would really like to do something like really low to the ground and kind of disrupt what's happening with the plants. This is kind of just like a weird design thing that I want to do. But that's where I'm going to plant my Stars and Moon yellow fleshed watermelon. And I'm hoping the watermelon vines will kind of like move through the peppers and the tomatoes and kind of like cover the ground. So we'll see if that works. I have no idea. I mean, we're gonna see. It's an experiment. I've never really done it before. But I'm excited to try it out. So we're just gonna plop one right in the middle. Then finally, all the way in the front, we have flowers. Now, this will be a mixture of low to the ground flowers. So this will be more of like my nasturtiums, my marigolds, flowers like that. My taller flowers like zinnias and stuff like that, those will be in other places in either garden. I'm gonna try and really, because of the sun issues that I have in this garden in the backyard, this garden gets like 6 to 7 hours of sun in the summer, like in the height of the summer because of just the sun problems that I have. So this garden, I really need to make sure that nothing is getting crowded out, which is why I'm trying, I think they call it stadium planting or something, where you're just putting the tallest stuff in the back and then it gradually comes down. So each square is 1 square foot. So really my peppers only need 1 square foot, my flowers need probably less than 1 square foot, and then my tomatoes are gonna need a lot more room than that. So this is the plan for the backyard garden. Now what's not on here are 2 things. One of the things that's not on here is my Vago garden bed, which is my metal raised bed that's probably like 2 to 3 feet tall. That bed is actually going to be dahlias and some other just fun flowers. So I'm almost kind of making that like a pollinator bed of just like beautiful flowers to kind of, again, just like disrupt the, you know, very planned, even spaced stuff going on. So that's not on there. And then the other thing that's not on there are last year I called it Tomato Alley. I basically have a line of grow bags, and on either side are these really tall poles. Last year what I tried to do was do the Florida weave and have tomatoes in these grow bags. Now I did get tomatoes out of those plants, so, you know, in that way they did what they were supposed to do. However, even though they did what they were supposed to do, they were not as prolific as the ones I planted in the ground. So that's why I'm moving all of my tomatoes to in-ground this year. However, I have a bunch of trellis netting, and the poles that I have for the tomatoes were like 10 feet tall. So my thought last year was to have this like tomato wall, basically. And it just didn't really work the way that I thought it was going to, which is fine. But this year, I've actually taken down my arch trellises that I had my cucumbers on last year. And that's because I just wanted more like flat space, but I do love a good green arch, by the way. So what I'm gonna do, I have these 2 large poles and then I have like 8 grow bags. And so I'm gonna hang trellis netting between the 2 poles. And I'm actually in each grow bag gonna do a different type of cucumber, and then there'll be loofah in there as well. And so really, I think that's gonna achieve the whole like green wall idea way better than the tomatoes were going to. So I'm super pumped about that. To be honest, like I am like jazzed about it. The only thing I have to figure out is how I'm going to harvest anything that's behind, because it backs up to the back of our house. So those are the two things that are not on this garden plan, are the Vago garden bed and then the grow bags with the green wall. And then also the kind, I have like a corner that was the only like little garden that existed when we moved in. And that's all just still gonna be like herbs and some flowers, and that's kind of like my little creative space where like I don't ever have a plan. I just kind of put stuff in and like see how it goes. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about my community garden. So my community garden is 10 foot by 20 foot, and it is outlined in cinder blocks. Now, I've never had an issue with the cinder blocks, like frying plants at all. And actually my first year with the cinder blocks, I filled them with dirt, and it was like exactly what I pictured it to be. It was, you know, beautiful, and there were herbs and flowers, and it was just like outlined, and it was amazing. That's kind of just come downhill over the last couple of years, for a whole host of reasons. But this year, I am gonna do it right. I'm starting a lot of flowers for those, for the cinder block holes, and I'm really excited about it. So that's a big project and you won't see that necessarily on this piece of paper. And then also the plot next to me has been abandoned for a long time, so I'm actually paying for that extra plot for the year, so that I can grow some of my determinate tomatoes. Now, so the reason I'm not growing my determinate tomatoes inside my plot at the community garden is because my tomatoes last year, it was a huge bummer, got curly leaf virus. Curly leaf virus can either be spread through contaminated soil, which I think might have happened, or potentially white flies. Now, the reason I don't think it was white flies is because nobody else at the community garden had this problem. It was literally just me. And like everyone grows tomatoes. So I would have assumed somebody else would have had this issue if it was from like a whitefly attack. But it was literally just me. So that's why I think I had potted my stuff in contaminated soil, because it was really just like a small amount of them. Anyways, moral of the story, I don't want to keep planting the same crop in that area if the soil now has like a virus in it, right? So that's why I'm getting this other half of a plot to grow my determinate tomatoes. So that's what you're going to see notated here, just as a heads up. So this is my other half of a plot, and there's actually already pre-built garden beds. So there's 2 4x4s, and then there's a 4x8. And you'll see that I've given these tomatoes plenty of space. So I'll have 4 in each 4x4, and then I'll have 8 in the 4x8. Now, these tomatoes are gonna be a little bit closer together, which is okay because they're determinate. So I won't be pruning them at all. They only have a certain lifespan, and basically once they hit that lifespan and they have a predetermined amount of fruit that will come off of them, I basically will harvest it all at once, pull the plants, and we're donezo. So indeterminate tomatoes will keep giving you tomatoes the longer that you take care of them, barring it's not too hot, which is exactly what happens here. But basically, that's my plan for that space. And then after I pull all the tomato plants, I'll probably plant sweet potatoes, because that'll be right around the time that you want to plant sweet potatoes. So I have a plan for that space for the year, and then you'll harvest your sweet potatoes in like November, and then it's basically the end of the year. So that space will really only have like 2 crops starting in March. It'll have the tomatoes, and then it'll have the sweet potatoes. So that's kind of the plan there. Now, before I show you the plan for my community plot, I just need to say, just in general, okay, as a human being that operates in this world like the rest of you, I am a planner. I plan my days very accordingly. I wake up and I make a to-do list, and I have a to-do list for work every day. I have a personal to-do list. I have a home to-do list. I live and die by the plan of life and the day. It's how I get all of my accomplished, to be quite honest. It is how I can work full time, have a YouTube channel, have a very strong romantic relationship, maintain my friendships, take care of my dogs, like cook dinner every night and like make our own meals at home. Like, I live and die by the plan, okay? With this, I'm challenging myself with my community garden plot to actually really not plan it as much as I have in the past. So, what you'll see in this plan is a lot of blank squares. It's a lot of blank squares. I know I want to grow corn, I know I want to grow some melons, and I know I want to grow okra. Now, how much of all of those things I want to grow, I have no freaking idea. Where I want to grow them, I have no freaking idea. Like, I am trying as hard as I can to not over plan that space and just direct seed stuff and kind of let it be this like spiritual creative practice, because everything else is so planned to the T. So I'm really trying to challenge myself in that way to kind of just like go with the flow and make it a very just like, I don't know, you can tell it gives me so much anxiety. You can tell, I just like clam up. I'm like, but it's gonna be great. I'm excited. I want it to just be kind of like this space that kind of like comes together, and maybe I'll be eating my words here in a few months when that's not what happens. But I'm excited. I think it'll be good, and I also might put out there too a type of squash that one of my subscribers has told me is had emailed me an article about how it's like virtually squash vine borer resistant, and that is like the biggest rub of being in Central Texas, is trying to grow squash. Those dang squash vine borers are just a friggin' nightmare. So it's called Tetume squash. So I did order the seeds. I said I wasn't gonna order seeds, but like, who believed me? Probably no one. So yes. So that is the garden plan reveal for the year. I would love any of your ideas and suggestions. I would love any, input that you have in the comment section below. I think the comment section honestly is where I learned some of the most valuable things about gardening. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We do a lot of these kinds of fun videos here, and they will just keep getting more fun as the growing season moves along. I upload every Friday and every Monday. Monday's my bonus day, so some days I might miss Monday, but definitely every Friday. And we'll talk all things urban and suburban gardening. So thanks so much for watching, happy gardening, and we will see you next time.